Welcome to your awakening. Please take all as your reality is adjusted.
Hello, hello, hello. Hopefully you can hear me. I know it's loud and clear for the music and stuff. Please let me know in the chat room you can hear my voice okay. I've been shifting the mic around and whatever, so might not necessarily be in the right place for a decent quality sound. Hopefully it is. Yes, hello, welcome. This is Virtual Shamanizing with me, the Heavy Cookie Monster. Yes, 18th of April 2013. Where shall we begin? It's Virtual Shamanizing because I am not a shaman, and this is a virtual experience through the interwebs of this ethereal atmosphere. Yeah, let's put it that way, whatever. I'm not going to divert into loads of caveats and whatever. I've near enough given up on doing that to a certain degree, but that's another point we'll come to in a bit. Yes, intro music was from New Model Army, Here Comes the War. Yeah, as asking in the chat room, hello everybody in the chat room, is this because of what's going on in the USA at the moment? Yeah. Yeah, and please do not attempt to strawman me with that usual garbage of you're being funny, why are you making light of this situation? Yes, that's something else I'll go over as well a little bit, just because it has to be done again and again and again. As each new, I don't like using the word person, but it's just an unfortunate part of the English language, as each new person starts their awakening process, that's another new person that is coming to all this information, starting to realise all these various things that are going on in the world, their geopolitical awakening, as Bill Ballard puts it. I'll mention that later as well. Their geopolitical awakening begins, so they are new to this information. Maybe not totally new, they might have heard little bits here and there throughout the years during their life and they've not really taken much notice, but now the things are starting to come together for them and they start looking. So unfortunately some things do have to be repeated. We do often have to backtrack, one step forward, two steps back, and dance and dance and dance we go. But yes, I want to give you a couple of quotes first before I go any further and start digressing into lots of other stuff. Never argue with stupid people. They will drag you down to their level and then beat you with experience. That's from Mark Twain. And the other one, which I feel is appropriate to some of the stuff I want to rant and ramble about, imagination is more important than knowledge. And that's from Albert Einstein. Now, of course, I know that there will be people out there who will go, oh, but you can't use him as an example, you can't quote things from him because he did this and he said that and he worked for them and he did... And it doesn't matter what you mention, whose name you reference, what work you reference, what theory, what evidence, whatever. I'm reticent to use the word always, but it does seem that there are always somebody out there who is going to naysay or attempt to contradict or whatever. Fair enough. This is part of the balanced conversation of seeing both sides, seeing the duality and being able to realise the duality. So you need those counterpoints, you need that dichotomy, but at the same time it does descend into silliness and often becomes unpleasant silliness. We all know the trolls, etc. This was something that you used to get in the playground when you was a kid. When I was a kid, long time ago, before the dinosaurs, before the snow. Where did those lyrics come from? Oh dear, that's sad. That was Iron Maiden, wasn't it? Quest for Fire. Oh dear, what are you doing to me, brain? Yes. Anyway, yeah. back when you were a kid, when I was a kid, back before the interwebs grew, it was the kind of stuff that you only really experienced in the playground, maybe in the pub, if you were one of those naughty young people that would, bluff your way into the local public house and attempt to buy a drink of something. Yeah, but that kind of bullying you would expect in that kind of environment, that psychological bullying. But with the advent of the interwebs and the anonymity that it gives people, that bullying has become, what can we describe it as? Ground to a very fine point. And that's just talking in reference to the people that are, for whatever their reasoning, just aggressive or unpleasant, nasty people who just want to abuse others. But then, of course, it also gives the psychological operations people an immense theatre to operate in, an immense box of tools to attack people with. Yeah, don't worry, I'm not planning to do a big rant about trolls, but it is sort of somewhat connected. Yes, 18th of April. Let me light my smoke. You may get a bit more music. I keep saying this recently. You may get a bit more music off me because with the recent hoop jumping I have been doing because of all the austerity changes and everything going on here in the UK at the moment, I have less time to invest in doing the kind of research that I normally do, even though I'm sure, again, some people go, research, is it deep research? Deep, all the way in, to the knuckle deep research. No. But it is time consuming because I look at quite a lot of stuff and I attempt in my usual manner to find the weaving threads within that mass of stuff. That does require quite a bit of time, and as I say, with the various hoops they're making me jump through, I don't have as much time to put into that, so we shall see how we go. I have been keeping up with a fair bit of stuff recently, and of course pretty obvious news recently, in various ways. But I may very well play a bit more music at you. I might very well have to cut it a bit short. I say, you know what, if you listened to me before, I was going to say, you know what I'm like. I say I'm going to do something quick and then I spend 10 to 15 minutes rambling around the point and fractally diverging into other points and pulling in lots of other information. It all gets very amorphous and gooey, and yes, that's the way my brain works. Maybe I should say that's the way my mind works, but anyway, yes, those two quotes. This is inspired by a combination of things. One, the events going on in the USA at the moment, the bombing in Boston, and just for those monitors out there that might be keywording all this, I'll say pressure cooker, pressure cooker, pressure cooker. I have a pressure cooker and I'm not afraid to cook vegetables in it. Way, rah! Yes, I'm going to cook vegetables. I haven't got a pressure cooker. Yeah, it's another one of those gadgets in the kitchen, isn't it? Yeah, I've never bothered with it. But linked into all this, and I will talk a bit about that whole situation, but there was another sort of aspect to it that I wanted to go into. I saw this was going through my mind when I saw some of the recent info come out yesterday. I used the word info, and strangely enough it was primarily this side of it was pushed by InfoWars, so there you go, info from InfoWars. And this is referencing the pictures of the crowds and the explosions and everything else going on, and they pointing out the people in the crowd with backpacks on who look somewhat suspiciously paramilitary. Yes, and the thought went through my head when I saw that story come up and I started looking at it and checking out some of the pictures, etc. The thought went through my head as, what's going on here? Is this now Conspiracy Waldo? If you've ever seen those books, the Where's Waldo books, where there's drawings of big crowds of people, and usually, well, not usually, always, that's the point of the books, somewhere in the crowd is the character that you're supposed to find, the Waldo character with his big glasses and his scarf and everything. And it just made me think, what's going on here? Is this all part of the psyop to have us all feverishly doing some kind of Conspiracy Waldo game? And at the same time, I think I might have mentioned this phrase before, the Conspiracy Cluedo effect, where if an event like this happens, the alternative media, the conspiracy crowd, the people that are looking at that kind of information in general, will descend upon it and will have a few days of what becomes like a big game of Cluedo. Yeah, I think it was Kissinger in the study with the latex bra. There you go. That's my guess to win the game of Conspiracy Cluedo. Yes, being silly again, and as I say, is it gallows humour? I will come back to. But that Conspiracy Cluedo, Conspiracy Waldo, and as per usual, I say as per usual because history repeats itself in this kind of fashion. The set decoration changes slightly, the people playing each part change slightly, but the events, the storyline is usually pretty much the same. Event occurs, tragic event occurs, it has some aspects to it that leave it open to speculation, and because of that, people's imagination and creativity get to work. People want to know what's going on, they want to find out who's guilty, for whatever their reasonings, whichever side of the political camp they happen to be in, whichever side of the conspiracy theory camp they happen to be in, whether it's a lie-hop, my-hop government, foreign agencies, truly unhinged crazy person, or domestic terror, whatever. That's not, that is just the event itself, but it is the aftershock of the questioners, the people wanting to know, the people looking to try and find the guilty so that they can hopefully work towards some kind of justice, etc., descend upon it, and it becomes like a massive game of Cluedo. And in that respect, we have to keep in mind that we do not have access to the kind of information and the evidence on the ground, the stuff like that the authorities, the usual authorities, would have access to. So we're left a little bit disarmed in that manner because our access to that kind of information is limited. So that makes it a lot more difficult to discern what's going on. It takes longer for the information to gradually leak out into the public or be leaked by whistleblowers, etc. I shouldn't say never, but and I know I do this myself sometimes. I'll look at certain events and I'll say, oh, that was probably a so-and-so, oh, I think it might have been this, that and the other. And I know I've done that in the past, and I probably will do it again. But we do have to allow for, and we do have to be mindful of allowing a little bit of time for this information to gradually filter out. And it's not really helpful to just go run, jump, and then later on, find out that it was completely the opposite, or a new piece of evidence comes out, or a new eyewitness appears, or a new whistleblower appears, and all of a sudden your whole hypothesis falls down like a big house of cards. that's part of creating the hypothesis in the first place. And that's sort of what I wanted to mention in relation to this. Like I said, I will talk about the other side of it, but I wanted to sort of address this first because, as I say, it's a recurring theme and it's something that people should get used to. And hopefully, you never know, there might be somebody new listening to this that it might be helpful to. That's the whole point I do this stuff, because I'm just hoping that it helps people in some manner, even if it just helps them to think, man, that guy's a crazy hippie weirdo. He's so hairy, what's going on? I can't understand anything he's saying. It all doesn't make sense. It's all crazy tinfoil. Ah. Yes. But inspired or leading on from the unfortunate events in Boston, there was, as I say, the usual outpouring, the almost instant outpouring of the alternative media speculating one way or another, claiming it was this, that or the other, or so-and-so was to blame. It's the Jews, it's the Jews. All the usual kind of stuff. I'm not picking on them deliberately to say it was. Just, putting that out there as one of the usual memes that always happens whenever anything bad happens. They are one of the usual scapegoats, and I'm not trying to say they're not to blame for stuff. I've talked about that lots before, but just as an example of how you will get that effect of people with certain agendas that they want to force upon others. They will take opportunity, they will politicise any event to try and propagandise their agenda, to get it out into the public sphere and push it onto people and try and insist that this is the truth, my truth is right, you must believe, you must now get on my bandwagon and all start running in this direction. And you must attack anybody who questions otherwise. And that was what led me into this, because I've seen this many times, and I will admit that I myself have done similar in the past. I try not to fall into this trap anymore, because I do believe it is an unhelpful trap. It is a quagmire that does nothing to help anyone, really. Not even the trolls. Those people that start this kind of attacking, oh, you're just a crazy conspiracy theorist talking rubbish. It can't be that because the government says it's this. The BBC News told me it was a man with a beard and a turban on his head, so it can't be the government because they told me so. All that usual kind of stuff, all the ad hominem attacks and the abusive attacks and the just pure hatred, the bullying, the aggression that comes out of people. But that is not one-sided, and this is what I'm referencing. This is why I feel it needs to be pointed out, because, as I say, I've done it myself in the past. I have, when people have said things that I thought were a bit too crazy or a bit too way out there, and it works both ways, it's not just the crazy conspiracy theory type stuff, it's also the absolute believers of the official storyline. It doesn't matter which side of the argument it is, it's just the fact that they have a polarised view or opinion or argument or evidence compared to what you wish to be the truth, the particular point of view or perspective that you're approaching it from, and you end up in an aggressive argument, an aggressive debate, and it becomes more like, I refer to it as being an ego battle, because in my head I envision it as two dogs trying to mate with each other, but both of them want to be on top, and that's what it's all about, winning. Competition. I want to be better than you. I want to prove to you that you are wrong and I am right. And when that becomes, or when that loses its thread of any genuine, rational debate, it becomes about attacking, and the original points are lost. The original reason for the debate is lost. Any reference to the victims of whatever tragedy you're talking about, or the criminals who are perpetrating these things. It gets lost in the quagmire of people just attacking each other on a personal level in one form or another. Either the usual kind of personal attacks, ad hominem attacks, character assassination, the guilt by association, the labelling and smearing, etc. Oh, you believe in that God? My God's bigger than your God. My God will kick your butt. All that kind of usual polarisation. And as I say, the original reason and any validity to the discussion gets lost, because it all just becomes about, I'm better than you, I know the truth, you're wrong, you're an idiot, you're a moron, and I'm clever, and you should shut up and listen to me. Yeah. I saw this when, as I say, as per usual, once this event set off, almost instantly people were saying it was this, that or the other. I'm not trying to denigrate anybody's ideas or theories or evidence that they bring to this possibility. I'm more concerned with what is going on and the interactions within the discussion itself and how we are interacting with each other over these points, because, as I've said lots before, I feel and this has been said many times before by lots of people in different ways, one of the biggest problems we face, or one of the biggest difficulties we face, is people just becoming too emotional, too entrenched, and you end up with no progression in any way, one side of the argument or the other. It doesn't matter who is right. What matters is the truth of what is going on. And if somebody is to blame, if somebody is the criminal that has caused these tragedies and suffering, and that you can actually track them down and bring some kind of justice to them, prosecute them, jail them, that's lost by the wayside as people just entrench themselves and fight from their point of view and demand that they are right. And this started to crop up as I was watching the interwebs. I was looking more for general observations and evidence of what actually occurred at the marathon in Boston, but a lot of what I was seeing was just the usual. Somebody would post an article or post a video, upload a video with them talking about what basically is speculation. They may have had one piece of evidence to help them spur that speculation, but they are examining a possibility or multiple possibilities. They're looking down a thread of potentiality that doesn't necessarily have all the evidence to back it up yet, but you need to investigate it first to find out if it holds water. That's the whole point of creating a hypothesis. You think something might occur because of set reasonings, because of these factors. So you come up with a hypothesis of how those factors, those variables work together to create the result that you're looking at and questioning. You then question your hypothesis from every angle possible. You look for evidence, you look for rational argument to back it up, etc., etc., etc. And if it falls apart as you're questioning it, then it falls apart. It's not a good theory because you can pull it apart yourself, or somebody else points something out and it falls apart, etc., etc. That's the point of coming up with hypotheses. That is what I feel is the more accurate definition of the scientific process. Often, I shouldn't say often, because I know this, as far as I'm concerned, this is just a self-evident fact. If you go into academia is obsessed with what is known as reductionism. the Baconian methodology of reductionism. As far as they're concerned, that is the be-all and end-all of science. And yes, there are, of course, as usual, there's always exceptions to the rule, and there are people in academia who are a bit more open-minded, a bit more able to cope with questioning on the fringes without falling into their own navel in terror at the unknown possibilities that they might be unveiling. But the majority of people in academia stick to reductionism, and that is debilitating. Please go and reference Sheldrake's recent TEDx talk if you can find it. I know it is still out there here and there because TEDx took it down pretty rapidly and tried to hide it, but it's still there. Go and check that out. His discussion about those kind of questions within science and how science can basically hobble itself, if you understand that meaning. To hobble something is when you cripple it in such a way to reduce its mobility, to reduce its ability to move around, its agility, etc., etc. And as well, that is partly why, well, one of the reasons why I thought the Einstein quote is important, and it links together. Imagination is more important than knowledge. I know from experience as well, not just observation but also personal experience, that a good portion of the academic world are, like I say, entrenched within a materialistic reductionist point of view, and they find it difficult to accept that imagination and creativity is actually required. They think it is as simple as you look at two building blocks and your brain automatically just knows that if you put one block on top of the other you will make a house. How do they come to that conclusion? I'm sorry, but that is not the way the mind works. And any decent scientist, because there's various angles to this, neurology, psychology, etc., but there's enough evidence out there to show that it requires the spark of creativity to make that jump from known facts to possible endeavours. I won't use the word facts, because until you've tested to see if you get a result and the result comes back to match your hypothesis, and it's not a fact yet, is it? It's just a speculation. But we have to make those speculations to be able to bridge that gap to new knowledge, to new realizations. If we didn't have that ability, that free will ability to speculate and randomise the possibilities in our heads and jumble them all up to see what we might be able to come up with, and then test those possibilities, then we'd all just be walking data boxes who would only ever be able to regurgitate facts that are already known. Just look back through our own acknowledged history and explain to me how it would have been possible for us to get to here where we are now if people hadn't had that imaginative leap. What made ancient man decide to carve a stone into a round shape and then put an axle through it and use it as a wheel to enable them to pull? So what made them think of that? What evidence is there in nature that would have been those pre-existing facts that they just had to automatically know how to put together? They didn't. It took somebody's imagination to come up with that possibility. It may have been inspired by nature, but a human being's creativity expanded on what it could see. I won't say he or she because we don't know either way, and what they could see in the natural world around them, and they experimented, they speculated, they imagined, they created. Lo and behold, here we are now today. Slightly sidetracked off from my notes a little bit there, because as I do, get into the flow. But as I was saying a few minutes ago, we're already up to 20. You see what I mean? I always say I'm going to be quick and do this in a short fashion, and I'll just get into it and it flows, and that's the way it works for me, and hopefully it's helpful for you. Anyway, yes, get on with it. This was playing him in my mind, rattling around, because as I say, I saw the usual speculative type stuff coming out, and yes, there was the usual quite fringe or extreme things such as it was all actors, it was totally fake, it was a Hollywood set, all the usual kind of extreme stuff. And straight away you had people attacking those viewpoints, and I use the word attacking deliberately, because they weren't refuting them or rebutting them or proving them wrong. They were in a way, but they were doing it in an aggressive fashion. And that to me is where we are tripping over ourselves, because that aggression rises from that egotistical desire to be right, to be in charge, to be on top, to be the master. The old paradigm is master and servant. The new paradigm should be neither. No masters, no servants. No masters, no slaves. No captains. We're all captains now. I should have played that MIDI intellect track. But yes. Now, this was partly inspired, and I'm not directly having a go at the guy. I just, I've followed him for a couple of years. I do like what he does. I appreciate what he does. He's really good at doing the investigative journalist kind of stuff, but he has a somewhat aggressive nature. He has little patience for people speculating, etc., etc. And I'm referring to Ry Dawson. Is it Ry or Reese? I'm never sure how he pronounce his name, whether it's Ry or Reese. I apologise if I'm getting it wrong. Ry Dawson, anti-neocons, .com or .org. I'm sorry, I can't remember now, and I didn't grab the link to check it. But he put up a little video, and now I'm trying to remember what the video was actually called, because I didn't keep that link either, because I didn't feel the need to. But I'll give you this link, which I believe does reference it. This link's from wideshut.co.uk, Keelan Balson's website. Please go and check it out if you haven't. He does as well. Excellent investigative journalist, always giving you lots of links and evidence, etc. As he says himself, he prefers to try and stick to evidence-based investigation rather than just pure speculation, etc. What was it? Shiny bullshit. That was it. Yeah. Ry Dawson, uploaded a video called "The Shiny Bullshit," and what he's talking about is, as I say, that usual kind of effect of when some event like this goes off, you get the more extreme voices almost instantly coming out and saying, it was the Galactic Federation that did it, I saw them, it was the Jesuit ninja leprechauns. Whoa! And yes, you get that, because humanity is a spectrum of people, and if you believe in, using the word carefully, if you believe in and desire to have a world of free speech, then unfortunately it means you will hear crazy people talking crazy stuff or offensive stuff, etc., etc. Free speech, unfortunately, has that effect along with it. It gives us a hell of a lot of benefits, and I would not want to lose it, and unfortunately it does mean I have to listen to some just utter rubbish or craziness or offensive stuff, whatever. That's part and parcel of it, like I say. In Keelan's article there, Apologies for those who are just listening and not in the chat room. I'll read the title out. Find it on wideshut.co.uk. The Man with the Missing Legs, a rational analysis of a Boston bomb victim. He was primarily talking about the fact that there was a viral picture that spread across the interwebs, primarily on Fuckbook, I think. So I just keep telling people, just don't even bother with base face. It's just, yeah. This viral picture of a army, I think it's army vet, yes, US Army officer who's an amputee, and certain people out there were claiming that one of the victims of the Boston tragedy who had lost his lower leg was actually the same guy shown in the picture, the US Army officer. And it turns out it's not the same guy. Lo and behold, another simple example of people rushing to find some kind of explanation and falling victim to either misconstruing the situation or misinterpreting the evidence, the facts available to them, or those out there who want to push a particular agenda for one reason or another, a particular point of view, etc. There are some unpleasant pictures in that article, so, you know, be warned. Keelan did put a warning at the top of the article, and yeah, be warned, there are some very graphic pictures in there. But that's reality, folks. That is reality. Yes, it's unpleasant and nasty. Reality is an illusion, albeit a persistent one. That was another Einstein quote, I believe. And I like to slightly adapt that and say, or reword it slightly. Reality is a dream, but it is a dream with sharp edges. Yeah, you get that kind of effect where people suffer horrible physical injuries or death due to these kind of events, these tragedies. But Keelan's point is primarily around that problem, the fact that people will too easily fall into the speculative bandwagon. Like I say, I think speculation is actually needed. The one sentence, let me find it again, I think third paragraph down, last sentence, yeah, evidence is the key. If there's no evidence, then you're speculating, and speculating doesn't do anybody any good. I'm sorry, Keelan, but on that point I disagree with you. We need speculation, it's just that we need some common sense to go along with it, and some honesty and integrity. If you are speculating, then be sure that you make that known to anybody you're interacting with. I am speculating. I am theorising. I am trying to come up with a hypothesis of what's going on here, and I'm just testing possibilities. I'm speculating. Now, there's the speculation. Let's look for any evidence that backs it up. So I don't feel that speculation is wrong or not helpful. It is actually required for us to look for the possibilities and connections, but you do need to look for the evidence, either empirical evidence or solid rational argument to back up your speculation. And as I was saying earlier, again digressing myself, from Roy's video upload of the shiny bullshit. As I say, I've followed him for a number of years. I do highly appreciate what he does. He's put some excellent stuff out there, and he does work hard, and he's a good investigative journalist, etc. But he's got a very low patience level, which is understandable with some of the craziness people come out with, but at the same time, attacking those people in an aggressive fashion, I think, is also unhelpful. The reason I say attacking, one other thing I'd mention, he calls it shiny bullshit, and he talks about putting a ribbon around a turd, you know, and it just made me think that there's an old phrase that's been going around for years. You cannot polish a turd, but you can sprinkle glitter on it. And I feel, it's one of those phrases. It's always good for when the politicians come out and trot out their usual promises before an election or whatever. It's the same old turd. They're just trying to sprinkle glitter on it, make it look appetising. Shiny, buy shiny thing. Shiny thing make everything all better. But the reason I was saying this initially, and my whole point of ranting and rambling on this, it becomes a level of competition where it is primarily following a methodology, a modus operandi, a style. I can't think of other words to describe it, but it's using denigratory admonishment, if those words make sense to you all in one go. Denigratory, or to denigrate the other person, maybe not necessarily to personally attack them. I know that Reese does not get in usually into things like just pure ad hominem for no good reason, but it is that way of laughing at people, of ridiculing them. And again, I'm sorry, mate, but I disagree with you on this. Ridicule is not a useful or good education tool. And I'm talking about real, honest education, not the bullshit indoctrination that we're given in the Western, well, all across the globe, near enough, really. Real education, helping people to realise things for themselves, to explore their own possibilities, to explore their own minds, to expand their own minds, to learn knowledge, to absorb knowledge and empower themselves, etc., etc., etc. Ridicule is not a good education tool. I know, I understand that with some people out there, it is like talking to a brick wall. You can present them with as much evidence and rational argument as you like, and they will still stomp their foot and demand, no, I'm right, you must believe me. Never argue with stupid people. They will drag you down to their level and then beat you with experience. And as I was pointing out earlier, and this is my whole reason of saying this, when you start down that process, the original point, the original reason for the debate beginning gets lost in the quagmire of it just becoming one person trying to be the master of another. If their speculation, their theory, their argument, their evidence, whatever, is so ridiculous that you feel it is silly, then why are you even bothering wasting your time going into such a debate with them? All you have to do is point them to something that you feel counters their speculation, argument, evidence, reason, whatever, and leave them to their own realisation. If you harass them, if you cajole them, if you ridicule them, all you do is amplify their fear, their self-loathing, their lack of confidence, their lack of honesty. They close in on themselves and they will just return fire back at you. When you attack somebody in that manner, you will, again, I say this from observation and personal experience, when you attack somebody in that manner, you will almost always, 99.999% of the time, get a bad reaction that is unhelpful to either person. You will just amplify the problem or germinate a whole new problem. It's just as bad, it's just as authoritarian as the system's indoctrination. The system works in exactly the same way. Again, from personal experience of being in academia, of studying university level, etc., You do encounter people who are a bit more open-minded, a bit more patient, a bit more willing to explore possibilities, etc. But the majority of them will just point a finger at you and go, ha 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 ha, crazy woo-woo, tinfoil hatter, ha 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 ha. It's social pejoratives that isolate people, exclude them, and push them to the fringe, creates more fractures, creates more division, creates more animosity. It's just unhelpful all round. You haven't helped that person learn anything. You haven't helped that person realise the truth that you're trying to present to them, or that you yourself are convinced of is a truth that you're trying to help them to learn. No, all you've done is made them hate you. How is that helpful? It's just creating more hate. As I say, I'm not trying to have a go at Reese or at Keelan at all. Not at all. This is a commonality that I've seen many times with loads of different events. Just in general, you're only going to surf the interwebs for a bit and you'll see these kind of interactions constantly. It's like, I believe 9/11 was an inside job. Ha 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 ha. Woo woo. Tinfoil hatter. Ha 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 ha. That's what the system does to you. Because you question. Because you feel that you have found evidence that makes the official story questionable. So you want to explore other possibilities. And they throw ridicule at you. They admonish you with denigratory attitude, comments, whatever. I think hopefully you get the point. They attempt to whip the truth into you by psychological manipulation. If you feel that what somebody is presenting, talking about, speculating about is so crazily annoying that it just winds you up and makes you want to scream, then maybe you need to think about why you're letting it bother you so much. Are you letting it bother you because you actually care about that person and you want to help them, and you are frustrated by their own ridiculous idiocy or blindness or dogmatic belief in sticking to their point of view? Or is it just because, in an egotistical fashion, you want to prove how right you are? You want to be the master. You want to parade yourself around and go, look at me, look at how much I know. I know all the truths. You have to believe me. That's exactly what the system does. Whether you are right or wrong doesn't matter. It's the way you put it across. It's the way you interact with others. Are you really wanting to help people? Or do you just want to big yourself up and make yourself the one who has all the correct answers? I feel strongly that this life is not a game where the winner is the person who manages to figure out all the questions before they die. It's not. This is just a stepping stone. There are much bigger questions yet which you haven't even realised exist. Think of it this way as well. For any of you that have children or have relatives with young children, when you're interacting with a toddler, prepubescent, a child between the ages of, say, 4 to 7 to 8, that's a period in child development when they're really starting to explore not only their environment that they live in, but at the same time they're exploring boundaries within their own minds. And I know it's a bit of a cliche, but the classic line of monkey see, monkey do. Most toddlers will look to the adults around them and they'll copy what the adults do because they think that is what is supposed to be done. That's how you interact with this environment and others. So they learn by copying and repetition to a large degree, not purely, but to a large degree. if you, when the child comes up to you and says, "Why is the sky blue? Is it blue because it's made of water?" and you point at them and go, "Ha ha 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 ha, woo woo, tinfoil, ha 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 ha," do you think the child's going to be upset? Do you think the child's going to take that on board and have a little damaged part of their psyche now because you've done that to them? Does that create a scar on their spirit, which they then spend however many years, depending on the person and the environment, etc., having to deal with, having to work around and heal and move on from? And it works, I feel it works just the same, no matter the age of the person. I think it's pretty much a truism. Again, there's always exceptions to the rule, but it's pretty much a truism that people become more entrenched and dogmatic as they get older. I feel that's simply a combination of, one, the neurology of the way the brain works, because neuroclusters become calcified and reinforced through repetition and use, etc. So certain viewpoints become dogmatic and calcified and entrenched. But at the same time, and from personal experience and observation, it also grows from conviction, because the person themselves, you yourself, see things happening again and again. You see more evidence and argument to back up what you feel this point of view or this truth is that you hold, so therefore you become more attached to it, you become more entrenched to it. And yes, that does have that danger of the tunnel reality, the dogma, etc. But hopefully you get the point. This, of course, there is a lot of this going on at the moment because of the tragedy in Boston. But it's not anything new. It's not anything out of the ordinary in that sense, because this happens with all these events. And people go through this process almost every time. It happens again and again and again. For me, when I'm approaching this, when I'm talking about unity and all that good hippie stuff, communification, one of my new words that I like to bandy around, part of that, I feel, is that realisation that if you ridicule people in that way, it's, in the long run, it's not helpful. They're not suddenly you point your finger at them doing the ha-ha woo-woo thing, they're not all of a sudden going to go, oh wow, thank you, the fact that you laughed at me made me suddenly realise the truth of what you said to me. Yeah, that's really helpful and great, thank you very much. Do you really think that's going to happen? Have you ever encountered that happening? I'd be surprised if it's possible. Yeah, it might have, but I'd be surprised. So, as I say, I know, I acknowledge, I understand that there will be people that will say things or whatever that make you so frustrated that it becomes extremely aggravating trying to deal with these people, and the fact that they are out there saying this stuff and spreading this kind of information now that we have the internet to do it. But attacking them in such a manner is not going to help. Trolling the trolls doesn't work. Not unless you approach it by redefining the word troll in the way that you are using it. Don't troll the trolls, love the trolls. Give them a love bomb, not an ad hominem. Like I said, I will honestly, freely admit that yes, I've done that kind of thing in the past. I've quite often got drawn into arguments where it's descended into just personal attacks against each other. It's like, oh, you believe in that, do you? That means you're a moron. Yes, I've done that. It's all part of the progression, I feel. That's my opinion on it now. That would be what I would write in a paper on psychology if I bothered to do a paper on psychology about such things. That progression. Okay, I think I've ranted about that sort of a bit enough. Whether that's helped in any way at all, I don't know. We'll see. I'm just being and doing. That's something else I'll come back to in a bit, which I will have to mention again. Excuse me, losing my voice. Yes, what I will do is I will play you some what I feel is appropriate music. Maybe a bit cliched, cheesy, appropriate music. But there you go. I do like the cheese, the fromage. But yes, as I do, I like to utilise music. This will be rather energetic. I will adjust volume so hopefully it won't be loud, aggressive. But yes, this will be a bit energetic, so be prepared. I will be back in approximately 9 minutes. Yes, catch you soon. Whoa. Yes, don't be afraid of the energy. It is just a bit of accelerated energy. That's why I play the faster stuff near the beginning of the show, just to try and stir up some energy. But remember, anger is an energy. It doesn't have to become aggressive or destructive. You can just take that energy and transmute it. Hopefully direct it into something helpful, creative, loving, etc, etc, etc. Yes, that was Rage Against the Machine, Bomb Track, and Anthrax, Aftershock. And yeah, somebody mentioned in the chat room, thank you for letting me know, Dan Spitz was on the interwebs doing an interview last week. I didn't see that, but there you go. Yeah, the reason I chose that particular track, the Anthrax, links into other stuff which I'll mention, I'll get to, hopefully, as long as I don't sidetrack myself too much. Perfectly okay, mate. Thank you for telling me, thank you for letting me know. It makes me curious again, like I've said before. Am I just touching on the zeitgeist, or is it just because I spent too much time on the internet looking at far too much stuff? So but like I say, I haven't seen that interview. I didn't know he was on there, so that's quite interesting that he comes out of the woodwork to do that at just this kind of time. I take it if it was last week, it was well, yeah, it would have been, wouldn't it, before the bombing? So yeah, curious. Yes, we will get to that. Anyway, to talk somewhat about the Boston bombing event, I did put up a little vlog the other day on my YouTube channel where I was speculating on some ideas, and this was inspired from the evidence that was available to me. I was looking at the way the explosions went off, the type of cloud, the type of fire that came out of them, from what the evidence available to me, again, from what they said of where the device had been placed and stuff like that. I was thinking about possibilities of what kind of device could it be, what was in there, etc, etc. But also, to me, it seemed that this was set up and done, either it wasn't as successful as the attackers had hoped it would be, i.e. it was too amateur to actually cause a really big effect, or it was deliberately set up to not cause lots and lots of fatalities. I feel it was more likely, especially the kind of bomb it was and etc, the stuff that was put in it, it's more likely that they got the effect they wanted. They wanted lots of injuries, lots of maiming, and that's exactly what they got. Now, this is about creating terror, creating an atmosphere of terror and perpetuating it. This is why they do the double attack things, where there's one bomb goes off, everybody runs away from the explosion, and then they'll have another bomb nearby. And if these are tactically placed, you can literally herd people from one explosion into the very next explosion. Now, in this particular case, it doesn't look like that's what they've tried to do. It was just more the fact that they'd placed the two devices slightly apart on that finishing line section of the race, obviously attempting to get as many people as they possibly could within the radius, etc. But it does seem the way these devices can be built, it could have been built and set up in such a way that it would have caused a hell of a lot more casualties, considering it was such a crowded place. There was lots and lots of people there. And as I mentioned in my video, they didn't set them off at the sort of climax of the race, of when the lead runners were coming in first, etc. If they'd wanted to get as much possible coverage and effect as possible, I would have thought that that would have been the time to do it. But again, speculating, I'm trying to guess what these people were thinking when they set this up. But it seems to me that this was done to cause injury, to cause the kind of injuries that a lot of the vets suffer, and a lot of the people in other countries, Iraq, Afghanistan, etc., the effects that the people suffer from the IEDs there. And yes, don't forget that fact that, yet again, just like with the Sandy Hook event, when it occurs, and please, if you're American, if you're from the USA, please don't take offence at this, because it's not directed at you, it's directed at your administration, the people that are hijacking your country. When the deaths and injuries occur to American citizens, then it's more tragic than when it occurs anywhere else. Storm Clouds Gathering put up a very succinct and direct video yesterday, I think it was, last night, basically just calling blah blah out to be the hypocrite that he is. He stands up there behind that podium and talks about how terrible and tragic it is that these people have died, and yet he then goes into the back room and signs the stuff required and presses the button to send drones all over the world to kill lots and lots and lots and lots of people. And he doesn't say that that's tragic and terrible, does he? No, not at all. But to sort of talk a little bit about the Boston event, I'm not going to go off into a whole load of it, because, as I sort of alluded to earlier, it's ongoing. Evidence is still coming out. All this kind of info is still coming out. To me, the main thing to be doing at the moment is to be looking at and searching through and looking for those bits of evidence and following the trails of evidence, looking for a paper trail, etc. And in that respect, all the stuff to do with the eyewitness talking about there being a drill and things like that, it's not very helpful at the moment, the fact that there is only one eyewitness who is speaking out about it. If this was actually going on and it did have some kind of connotations to the bombing, then we need more people to speak out about it so that it becomes undeniable. While there's only this one person, I'm not trying to say he's wrong or he's anything like that, not at all. It's just that it's a singular lone voice, and he will be more readily discredited because he is a singular lone voice. So, if there's people out there who heard and saw the same kind of things he did, that he was reporting about spotters on the roofs and bomb sniffing dogs and all that, then more people need to come out and say that. And sort of following along with that, I'll give you another couple of links. The first one is from Tom Secker. It's a little bit sort of carrying on the same kind of thread as Keelan was pointing out in his article. There's that kind of forewarning of not running off too far down the speculative path and getting carried away with possibilities without any evidence to back them up and stuff like that. And Keelan uploaded this new article today, which actually talks directly about the paramilitary type security type people with the backpacks on. All the pictures are currently going viral across the interwebs about, and InfoWars has decided is absolute proof that this was a false flag, etc., etc. Again, Alex Jones has this habit where he will seed so many possible things happening that it's almost guaranteed that something that he's mentioned will occur, and then he will go back and go, see, I predicted it. It becomes a bit ridiculous, even though, yes, as well, I will also add to that he has been right a lot of times, and he has been on the ball, and he does capture the information and the little bits of evidence that help put all these pictures together. But at the moment, to me, it's still in that investigative phase of the initial outpouring of info. And as well, as I said earlier, we are not going to be privy to all the information that the authorities, that the justice system is gathering up. So therefore, we have to tread a little bit more carefully, because we're trying to deal with a limited amount of evidence and information. But we'll see. I do, I'm not predicting anything. I'm not saying it really is or it isn't, but I do feel that it very much leans towards being a false flag. There's just so many things that tie in together that just make it work so perfectly as a false flag that it's difficult to say that it isn't. Let's put it that way. In the scale of probabilities, the false flag is far higher in those possibilities than it being a genuine either domestic or foreign terrorist, disgruntled, disenfranchised people, whatever. This just so well fits the need of the agenda at the moment that it's like there's been a big red beacon stuck on top of it that's blinking, and it's flashing out the letters false flag. And I've sort of mentioned that before on my vlog, I think, for Patriots Day and all this kind of, all the stuff that's going on in the politics as well at the moment, as well as geopolitics, not just national politics. But it does become a bit more complicated when you take into or you take on board or the various things we know about the way the agencies, the alphabet soup agencies, will operate, and the fact that they will do stuff like this. If it suits their need, they will do stuff like this. It's provable, it's undeniable. There's an absolute weight of evidence, court cases, as well as just pure factual empirical evidence, to back up the fact that yes, they will do stuff like this. And for those people with the usual argument, oh, whistleblower would have said something, somebody would have spoken out, an insider would have said something, it's called compartmentalisation. Even those guys that in the pictures, the ones that look a bit paramilitary, that could be from an agency or a private company such as Blackwater or Kraft or whatever particular one it is, it doesn't really matter. It's just the fact that from one of those kind of agencies. Even if they were there, they would have been compartmentalised. They would not have known the whole picture. They would not have all the information of what is going on. And that goes up the tree, up the pyramid of controls. There's very few people that actually know, yes or no, whether it was or wasn't done by them, etc., until we find the paper trail bits of evidence to show that it was. Another sort of side note I wanted to add to that, because this is one of the kind of extreme fringe ideas, conspiracy theories that seems to have been very popular for the past couple of years, ever since the one, I won't mention his name because it just causes a furore, but the one particular internet personality out there who likes to put out information saying that everything is a hoax, everything is done with actors, it's all make-believe, it's all theatre, it's all Hollywood, nobody ever gets really injured, nobody's died, blah blah blah, it's all just fake blood and actors. The one thing I'd ask with that, look, just think of it this way: when there's a massive wealth of evidence, undeniable evidence, court cases, etc., etc., that show that they have done this kind of stuff in the past, why would they even bother doing it in a pretend fashion? Why? Why even bother risking the leaking of information because you're hiring actors from some normal agency somewhere out there in the media world, like actors agencies that you do this kind of stuff? Why would they risk that? You really think the alphabet soup agencies, the whatever particular one it might be, MI5, 6, Mossad, CIA, NSA, ISI, let's all play with letters. do you really think they would risk the potential of leakage because an actor has been asked to do something that he feels a bit uncomfortable with, and he starts to see through his compartmentalisation and realise, hang on a minute, they said it was going to be a fake bomb, but that guy's got something that looks pretty real to me and he's pressing buttons on it. Do you see what I mean? Why would they even risk that in the first place? And when, as I say, it is provable that they have done this kind of stuff again and again and again, why would they bother? They don't care about killing you. They're quite happy to kill you. It suits their ends. It suits their agenda. It enables what they want to do. So they'll do it. They've done it multiple times. So this whole meme of it was actors, I find to be a bit ridiculous. I do acknowledge that there are, certainly in recent cases, there is a lot of stuff that is extremely dubious in that sense. I'm thinking in particular of Sandy Hook. That whole event is so dubious in the sense of, hang on a minute, that guy just does not look like he's acting normal. He looks like he's reading a script. He looks like he's acting. Where are the pictures of the event? Where are the pictures of the crazy gunman in the school? Yeah, they don't have to show us any gory detail. They don't have to show any of the children or bodies or anything. Just like they did with other events, they've shown security camera pictures of the suspects. Why haven't they done that with this, with Sandy Hook? They didn't, which makes it really, really questionable of what's going on there. And yes, I acknowledge the possibility that that whole event was staged and set up, or it might have been partly staged, sort of a lie hop type event, or my hop, where they've sort of took the guy in, and the agents are the ones that have killed everybody, and then they've killed the patsy. That's fairly common MO for them doing this kind of stuff as well. But in this case, I think it's really, really pushing the extremes to try and claim that what we saw in all the live feeds and video clips after the fact is staged. That would be extremely difficult to do. You're talking thousands and thousands and thousands of people that would have to be in on it in some fashion, and that is, not impossible. Like 9/11, there was a lot of people involved in that whole structure. But I think you see where I'm going with that. this whole meme of the actor thing, I think, is deliberately been seeded within the last couple of years because it's used to create division and distraction and to denigrate and label the alternative media, the independent media, the questioners, etc., etc. It's done deliberately so that they can use it against you to ridicule you and attempt to shut down any conversation or questioning within the mainstream, within the public mind. It keeps it more to the fringe, and it causes more of that ha 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 woo woo ha 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 effect. So yeah, that was just another side note that I wanted to throw in there. I think there needs to be a lot of evidence to back up the idea that it was a hoax using actors before even, you know, getting anywhere near possibly being true. Well, as I say, they've killed people again and again and again in the past. Why would they risk hiring actors to do something like this? It's a potential leak that any good agent would not be happy about having. Yeah. Why do that when they can use compartmentalised pawns such as those guys in the paramilitary gear? You know, like I said, it is a hierarchical structure where the pawns at the bottom do not need to know the reasonings why. Theirs is just to do and die. Yes. Now I'm going to sort of slightly segue, sidetrack, jump a little bit. I should really play another track because it's something I wanted to play anyway. I would have played it last week, but it didn't catch my eye quick enough, so it ended up getting saved till now. It's somewhat appropriate, I think. Yes, I'll try and be quicker when I come back because I'm doing my usual ramble off things again. Yeah, anyway, I'll play a quick track. It's 6 minutes long, I think, something like that, as far as I remember. Yeah, 6 minutes. I will be back shortly. And I'm back again. Hello again. Yes, welcome back. That was Crass, Big A, Little A. Some good advice in the lyrics in that song if you bother to listen to it. Worth checking out if you haven't before. It's been a bit guitar-y and punky, metal-y type bass stuff so far. Don't worry, I will play a bit more melodious stuff before we finish up. But I will try and finish up now. The other things I wanted to mention, I'm going to do a bit of a sort of a not quite a truth bukkake, but I will mention quite a lot of things in rapid succession in a minute. But first I wanted to go back to what I was saying earlier about, gallows humour. Again, this for me has been part and parcel of my process, and hopefully I'm helping to point this out for other people. Please do not misconstrue that kind of gallows humour for me ridiculing or the victims in any way, or ignoring the suffering, pain, loss, the tragedy of all these events. Because obviously it's not just the Boston event. Like I said, there's been hundreds of people killed in other countries during the last couple of weeks. You don't really see that much mention of them. They certainly don't get the kind of sympathy that is being cycled through the news cycle again and again and again. This faux sympathy, the crocodile tears to manipulate a situation for political gain, the usual kind of crap that they do. Now, my laughter is to utilise that as a weapon of love. Joy and laughter are weapons of love. You don't let them terrorise you and put you in fear, because that's exactly what they want, because once you fall into that fear, they can have control of you. Well, they'll certainly attempt to have control of you. And like it says in the lyrics, you don't like something, work on changing it, work on being something different. If you don't like the game of the casino, stop playing the game. Yeah, the casino, the house is rigged. The casino always wins. So just why even bother playing their game? Because in the long run, you're gonna lose. Because it's a fixed game. So one of the things I mentioned is that, in that respect, is that the OPPT stuff, I did put another vlog on my video channel, on my YouTube channel. I will at some point, if I get the time, do a little vlog to sort of address that point, just codify it and put it all in one place and have done with it, hopefully. So yes, joy and laughter. This is about life and living, and they want to reduce your life and living. And sort of circling back to me talking about trolls earlier, just how often do you see that kind of aggressive nature coming from the troll attacks, to the extent of comments such as, "Oh, you're so stupid, you should kill yourself, you should be taken out of the gene pool," all this kind of rhetoric and attitude and aggression. How is it helpful in any way whatsoever? Getting involved in that whole competitive mindset, game playing, the ego polishing, the game's rigged. It's going to go nowhere except descend rapidly. The joy and laughter is to laugh in their faces, to laugh in the controllers' faces, the manipulators, to let them know that I am not in terror. I will live my life, thank you very much, and I will enjoy it as best as I can and as much as I am able to. As a free-range slave, I will push up against the fences that they are imposing on me. I will hopefully find holes in them or knock them down or whatever, but the point is I will dance and sing and have fun while doing it. Yes, anyway, I am now going to do a sort of, so it's not like anything spectacular, I just want to read all this stuff out, because I've seen several people mention, as Adonis has just mentioned in the chat room, the FBI are now acknowledging those photographs, the pictures of the suspicious people in the crowds with backpacks, the paramilitary types. So they cannot avoid that evidence now, because it has been so spread amongst the public, those of us that are looking at this different stuff and questioning it and looking for that kind of evidence. They have to acknowledge it. So great, they have acknowledged it. And in a similar, I say in a similar manner, it's not exactly in a similar manner to that, but it sort of just goes along with the things going on in the background. As I was saying, I've seen several different people mention this, articles sort of pointing it out as well. When there's doing something with the right hand, you should be watching the left hand, in that classic way that an illusionist will distract you with a little bit of agile prestidigitation. It's a fantastic word, isn't it? Prestidigitation. That's the sleight of hand tricks. While they distract you with one hand, or with the attractive female assistant flashing her voluptuous parts at you, they'll be busy doing what they need to do to enable the magic trick with the other hand. So when they're waving big tragic event, constantly, perpetually forcing it through the mainstream media into your half-asleep cerebellum, what are they doing with the other hand? What is going on in the background? What else is happening that we should be aware of? One link I saw just before we were coming to air, and I grabbed it quick because I think this is one of those type of things. This is just from RT, because I happened to notice it was on RT. I'll get the proper title for you in one sec. RT.com. US House of Representatives passes CISPA cyber security bill. So there you go. Yeah, a good day to bury bad news. Never let a good disaster go to waste. Or, these things that they've said are evidenced in record, so yeah, they will take opportunity from tragedies such as this to get away with stuff. And in that sense, as I say, I saw other people mentioning this and raising the flag, as it were, to go, hey, folks, don't forget, they'll take advantage of while everybody's busy looking at the tragedy and being in shock and horror of everything that involves. What else are they up to in the background? So I just started writing out a few notes of some of the stuff that have happened in the past week, few days, that could be said to be those things in the background. I'll just read them out as I've written them down. So here we go. While the majority of people are obsessed with looking at what happened at the Boston Marathon, American Airlines were grounded due to a computer problem. It was speculated that it was a hack, but they claim it wasn't a hack, but all of their airplanes were grounded for quite a while. 200 US troops being sent to Jordan to help with the situation in Syria. There has been the release of a bipartisan report on the war crimes of Bush and blah blah. These are things that they could be indicted for. And this is hasn't gone completely unnoticed, but it's tried to slip through. In a similar fashion, a few days ago, there was another piece of legislation that protected big GMO corporations from litigation. Monsanto's the big name, but there's other names out there as well that are involved in production of genetically modified stuff. Yeah, there's been a convenient piece of legislation put through that protects them for a period. I cannot remember the time period. I think it was only a couple of months, something like that. But it's still ridiculous that these corporations now cannot even be liable for the damage that they cause. OPPT likes to talk about holding people to liability. Here is a perfect example of how the system will just ignore your pieces of paper. They don't care about your pieces of paper because they've got the big stick and they will hit you with it. Anyway, yes, other things, federal employee financial disclosures to remain offline. Rising posted to I was going to say important people. Well, yeah, you go. Political figures rising. Made me remember the anthrax events back around 9/11. Also made me think of the Unabomber. At least going back even further, for those us old uns might remember that. Is this the beginning of an ongoing campaign? Are they going to keep putting the pressure on, this terror theatre pressure? Are we witnessing what could be called the fire sale effect? Is this the beginning of that process of crushing all the systems so that they can, as we've often said before, lots of other people have said, to bring in the new old paradigm, the new old world order, the old world order with a new set of clothes. The emperor wears no clothes. Yes, carry on. Precious metals price manipulation. Is this conveniently timed for the fact that Cyprus is saying it's going to sell off, where is it, a third of its gold or something like that, a third of its gold reserves, and just so happens that the price of gold drops? Are the bankers trying to get more bang for their buck? Economic crises ongoing all over. The LIBOR scandal is still rolling on. That's still chugging through the courts and being ridiculously watered down to such a point it'll probably fade out within a few months, or they'll try and fade it out within a few months, and nothing much will happen from it. But anyway, carry on with my list. Flying pig flu in China, possibly, definitely something going on over there. Speculation that it's some kind of biological weapon, but like I say, it's speculation. North Korea seems to have disappeared off the news cycle all of a sudden now, doesn't it? Oh, hang on a minute. Just the other day it was imminent nuclear war with North Korea, and now all of a sudden they've disappeared into the back room and nothing much is being said about them. A 7.8 earthquake on the Iran-Pakistani border. The Iran-Pakistani border. Where are there lots of drones? Where are there lots of drones killing lots of civilians? There has been a few other fairly major quakes around the Pacific Rim, the Ring of Fire as well. So, is this just convenient or coincidental timing, etc., etc.? Yeah, whatever. Multiple bombings in different countries across the Middle East. Bombings in Iraq that caused more casualties than what occurred in Boston. As I said earlier, the hypocrisy of one life is worth more than another. The Wicked Witch was finally put into the hole. She's slinking her way into hell now with a clippy, clippy, clappy, clippy, clappy, clippy, clap. With those hooves, it was interesting. I didn't watch the whole event. I would not bother to watch the whole event, but a couple of people uploaded video clips of the procession, etc. It was actually quite interesting to see the fact that there weren't really that many people there. The procession itself was not that big, major thing. It was the usual military pomp and circumstance, but that was about it, really. So that's all good. Ding dong, the witch is dead and she's in the hole. Trumpet down. Manipulated unemployment figures. Yeah, I've talked about this before. It's a continuous thing in the political theatre. They will massage the figures deliberately to suit their needs. As Chunky Mark pointed out quite nicely, isn't it funny how the unemployment figures have supposedly gone down, but there's more people out of work, there's more people losing their jobs? How does that compute? Does not compute. And at the same time, there is a lot more people here in the UK who are being sanctioned from their benefits, which basically means you get your benefits taken off you completely. You get banned from any kind of welfare benefits. So in other words, you have absolutely no money coming in. And the number that they are doing this to is increasing week by week by week. It is becoming it's extreme, becoming extreme at the moment here in the UK. And one final thing, the little imp Willie Hague, stomping around, being the warmonger that he is, banging the war drums and talking about going into Syria and into Africa and all this kind of stuff. And there you go, that was just a short selection of some of the things I just noted down quickly that has been going on within the last week or so. Are they trying to distract you from something? Is this the beginning of an ongoing campaign? Is this potentially leading to an escalation? When I first heard the news last week, Monday, when I first heard the news of the bombings, the very first thing that went through my head was, that's convenient to allow them to push the gun banning agenda and the increasing of the militarised police state, isn't it? Isn't it just? And it so conveniently fits the agenda to be blamed on the Patriot movement, on the constitutionalists, on those terrible right-wing, God-bothering type people that are complaining about the government. Yes, we can blame it on them. There you go. Even more so suits the anti-gun agenda, etc., etc., etc. Yes. I will leave it there, though, folks. I apologise for leaving it on somewhat of a down, maybe, but I will pick it up a little bit with the last couple of tunes and play some reggae out for you. Just the usual Bob Marley track at the end, and I'll play another Bob Marley to go into it. Just seems appropriate to me. Yeah, more and more people are talking, more and more people are being active and deciding that they can no longer sit in silence and do nothing, because if you do sit in silence and do nothing, if you sit on your rosy-cheeked ass in your little cross-legged position, in your lotus position, going om and thinking nice thoughts, the machine will just roll over you and throw you in the pot to be added to the Soylent Green, which they will feed to their free-range slave factory worker zombies. Am I a crazy conspiracy theorist? I've got a tinfoil hat and I'm not afraid to use it. Yes, anyway, folks. You see, gallows humour. Take care. I will rant at you again next week, hopefully, as long as I don't have too many hoops to jump through. Yeah, keep talking, keep conversing, don't let them drag you down, keep evolving, keep laughing. I will rant at you again, as I say, next week. Be love. Thank you, Adonis. It is a fantastic phrase. Be love. I will catch you again soon.